September 9th, 2008. It's an overcast day. A lone figure lies limp, face down in the sands of a shore. The foamy waves kind of come and go, dousing his trousers with each rise and fall. There are grains of sand peppering his matted brown hair. He's battered, bruised, and bloody. There are some chemical burns charring the outside of his coat. But he summons the strength to raise his head. And the only thing that escapes his lips are... Hours later, that same figure is in a busy hospital corridor. Doctors and nurses and surgeons dart to and fro as he's rushed on a gurney into the emergency room. A couple nurses grab him from either side, counting down 3, 2, 1, lift, before moving him onto an operating table. It's noisy with medical chatter from one end. I need 5 milligrams of morphine and IV drip. Stat, where's that anesthesiologist? She's on her way. Can somebody run the ID? Already done. He's an English national. No passport or visa on hand. Reach out to the police for more details. How'd he get here? Nobody knows. Why do I feel like this is about to become an international incident? And escaping that figure's lips is just his weak voice cutting through the noise. Nearby nurse leans in. Just hold on, this guy's still lucid. He's trying to say something. Everybody quiets down and stands still. The nurse leans in close, giving the patient her ear. And the man whispers something to the nurse. A couple people pipe up. What's he saying? What's he saying? And then she just holds up a hand and then leans away and says he needs to speak with the BSAA. So, 3 years earlier, it is November 9th, 2005.
After the events with the Feliciano crime family, the party comes face to face with agents of the Manifold. This is the story of Resident Roleplay so far.
Resident Evil Roleplay.
Shortly after the incident at the Feliciano estate, the survivors raid the house of their former comrade Emil in search of information. There they find many notes revealing his manipulative plans and extremist worldview.
So opening up his King James Bible, you look through some of the notes. The first one is in the Old Testament story on Joseph, and there's a note that just says, God's divine plan is intricate and vast. I'm a part of it, but how? You flip through a few more pages and you find, I am God's chosen child. I witnessed Greenhouse, a joint operation with Umbrella, be destroyed. I was present at Raccoon City, Umbrella's outbreak. Jack became a product of the vile experiments done at Umbrella. A little girl created in the labs of Umbrella calls me her father. I helped a scientist from Umbrella inoculate herself, making her more than human. Everything in my life points in one direction. And these are found at various points. At one point you see it's written, Archaea is reckless. She cannot be trusted. Another note in another page just goes, freedom is a responsibility Archaea is not capable of wielding. She must be controlled. Flip through a few more pages. Another note says, Kevin came to me today with an interesting proposition. He and Archaea are establishing a relationship. This is good. Kevin is a good man. Naive, but well-intentioned. I can use him to help control Archaea. I've enlisted him to help build the facility. Flip through some more notes you eventually find. I've been thinking of Archaea and her classification as a human being. I believe this is inaccurate. As lab mice differ from their wild counterparts, so does she. Archaea is not human. She has no God-given rights. She was made by man, and so she will receive man-given rights. Katara, as you continue to rummage through, what you find is a journal with combat notes and observations recorded in it, with a focus on the ruthlessness of Chauncey Clancy. And certain passages stand out amidst all this data as basically little opinion pieces.
Oh, let's hear it. I want to hear these opinions.
I need Chauncey on my side. His potential as a pure force of targeted destruction is unparalleled. The perfect hammer for any nail. Another note reads, Chauncey assassinated Chester Herman. This is interesting. He showed remorse, but not about the murder. It appears he wants to be a, and this next two words appear in quotes, good guy, but will still complete orders given. He will be of much use. With him and Aiden at my side, no one will be able to stop me. And Katara, the final file you find is on you.
Let's see this.
Too idealistic. Contingencies must be put in place. Already have a legal incentive planned. Need an emotional anchor. Perhaps Nuria. You flip through a few more pages and you do also find this note that reads, I have sufficient evidence that Katara initiated illegal research. And then it lists in bullet points. The first point reads, her condition. Pyridine pills are synthesized from the steroid we isolated in her DNA. The next point reads, loan to fund Greenhouse Solutions, of which she is head researcher. Soon we'll have evidence of dealings with the Feliciano family. You flip through, you find some more notes. Nuria is now on Pyridine. That should keep Katara satisfied for now. If I can cure Nuria, I can hang that over Katara's head indefinitely. And down the same page, another note says, Katara previewed the facilities. She seemed to be on the same level about Archaea, and has agreed to help me study her. With her research, humanity takes a step out of the darkness. I will guide those steps.
On their way out, the party runs into a squad of well-armed soldiers, led by Emil's old friend, Eddie Lopez. As soon as the situation devolves into a firefight, the squad attempts to retreat as they call in an airstrike to destroy the house. After dispatching Lopez and the other soldiers, the party narrowly escapes on the Black Betty before the area is flanked with aerial bombardment. 3 months go by after that incident. In that time, Chauncey works at converting the Feliciano estate into Camp Clancy. He sells his old house, shuts down the Feliciano vineyard, collapses the mines, converts the lounge into a war room, and converts the gallery into a shooting range. Kevin meets with Chauncey at the Raccoon City Rose Garden, where he learns of the events at the Feliciano estate. Now knowing that Emil has betrayed them and killed his newly found girlfriend Archaea, Kevin vows retribution. He quits his position at Greenhouse Solutions and seeks official protection with the BSAA. But after some time, he lets his sister Sarah know that he will be out of touch, and runs off on his own. Katara puts out a new paper and finally earns tenure at Simpson College. She's then offered the chance to head up their science department as the institution seeks university status. Their new ally Sarah Black quits her job as a nurse in order to work with the BSAA, and soon finds deployment at Camp Clancy. With Camp Clancy fully operational, Chauncey takes a walk around his new base and learns of some available research projects that he can fund to improve it. However, it isn't long before the party reconvenes for a new assignment. Through the holographic war terminal in Chauncey's main office, the BSAA tasks his team with heading to Atlantis, the underwater habitat where Nuria works, which has gone dark following a distress signal. The party reassembles and flies out to the Mediterranean Sea, where they meet Agent Cartwright, their contact in the BSAA's European branch.
You see this gorgeous and mature-looking lady with just high cheekbones, smooth, pale skin, and she has straight, shoulder-length blonde hair, and she's wearing a black tactical wetsuit with kind of gray highlights here and there.
I go up and introduce myself.
And she's just sort of like sitting atop this craft casually that's floating in the water, picking at a apple with a kukri. Ah, guten Tag.
Yeah, where can we get one of those wetsuits?
Oh, I'm afraid this is the only one I... This is the only one I have. You must be Captain Clancy with the North American branch?
I extend my hand and yes, you're right.
And she hops down and shakes your hand. She's just like, my name is Agent Cartwright. I'm with the European branch. I was told to escort you to Atlantis?
You sure you don't have any one of those wetsuits?
Agent Cartwright transports the party via submersible to the Atlantis facility on the seafloor. They soon find Nuria and her friend Abby in the galley, after which they fend off an ambush by the infected ooze. After learning of another possible survivor named Lucas, they bring Abby to safety and explore the rest of the habitat. In the living quarters, they find a laptop belonging to Lucas, which they store in the submersible. However, the B level is flooded due to a rupture in one of the portholes, but they hypothesize it might still be accessible from the outside by swimming through that same porthole. Mr. G ardently refuses to go into the water, and Sarah agrees to stay behind with him. Chauncey, Nuria, and Cartwright don diving gear and swim out into the sea. Katara joins them by using her mutation to grow gills and webbed appendages. While out in the deep dark waters, the group fends off a pack of infected fish called Gyozo and glimpse a massive shape moving in the shadows. After entering the second floor through the rupture, they activate a lever that seals the portholes with shutters and open hatches to drain the waters. With the B-level flooding emptied, the party reunites and begins clearing the rooms of all remaining infected. The party soon gains entry to the hazmat storage room, the last area they are yet to search. There they finally find Lucas, riddled with guilt and crying into his palms, making strange statements suggesting some involvement in causing the outbreak. He then transforms into the ultimate abyss, which they proceed to fight and very swiftly dispatch. They then secure the last remaining sample of the T-Abyss virus and prepare for departure. Before moving on, Mr. G and Chauncey notice a peculiar scorpion tattoo on Agent Cartwright's neck. Nonetheless, with Atlantis cleared and all surviving crew accounted for, they spend the next 18 hours decompressing by adjusting the habitat's interior pressure. They spend much of that time in conversation as Mr. G makes friendly with his new allies. But at the end of the decompressing period, as they board the submersible to leave, they see in their headlights a gigantic creature, not unlike a monstrous whale waiting on the sea floor.
See, that's...
What the hell is that?
The creature attempts to attack their vehicle with tentacles. However, with some smooth, evasive maneuvers from Cartwright and Mr. G, they manage to outpace the monster and leave it behind as they speed away for the surface in their submersible. Landing back at the beach, they are greeted by an unfamiliar helicopter which lands and offloads a group of 3. Suspecting something to be amiss, Chauncey gets in touch with Maya and requests a profile on Agent Cartwright. The image he receives is that of a different person entirely. Knowing it's a trap, he opens fire on the one they called Agent Cartwright, missing his target but prompting her to draw a hookshot and zip across the beach to join the landing party on the shore. On that shore stands the Manifold's A-team: Scott Muller, Ronan, the hacker Sphinx, and the super spy Scorpion, who had been undercover as Cartwright. The Manifold operatives stand along the beach, squaring off against the party on the surfaced submersible. A fight is underway.
I advise you all to just hand over the T-Abyss virus and make this easy. Nobody else needs to get hurt.
But the party refuses, and an epic battle ensues.
Next up is going to be Ronan. He just grabs his trench coat by the scruff and just like throws it off of his person. And you see this hard-shelled creature there with this tail swinging behind it with this katana sword in hand, and he's going to start moving forward.
Sphinx summons a mobile turret using a quadcopter drone, which fires down magnum shots from the air. But Mr. G stealthily sets up a sneak attack shot with his rifle, severely wounding Sphinx and forcing him to retreat back into the helicopter. Chauncey charges the front line with his striker shotgun, entering close combat with Emil's old friend Scott Muller, who stows his assault rifle and resorts to hand-to-hand boxing to put a beating on Chauncey.
Jabs and crosses.
Let's go, bro. I'm used to fight with my sister. That hits. That hits.
So,
well, I wasn't ready. Okay.
yeah.
Scorpion uses her hookshot to disarm Qatar's grenade launcher, leaving their superhuman scientist at a disadvantage. All throughout, the party tries to keep the T-Abyss sample out of the Manifold operatives' hands. First, they relegate it to the Atlantis survivor Abigail, who is staying in the submersible. However, Ronan chases her down and kills her inside the vehicle with a cut from his katana, Mr. G intervenes and yanks the sample away from Ronan, but with a rapid series of katana slashes, it takes out Mr. G and runs off with the prize. In the midst of this skirmish, Sarah runs away and heads for a nearby cabin, where she attempts to radio for help. Nuria throws a cryogenic formula to aid Chauncey, but she instead inadvertently freezes Chauncey while Scott resists the freezing effect. With the sample in hand, the enemies retreat to the helicopter. In the end, the entire Manifold party manages to escape with the virus sample. In the aftermath of their defeat, the party licks their wounds. Mr. G gets back on his feet, but his brief submersion in the water seems to have washed away a layer of makeup, revealing a canvas of gang and white supremacist tattoos covering his entire body. The party then flies out of the region. During the flight, Chauncey asks Nuria to join the BSAA as a scientific advisor, and Mr. G reveals that he's had a history of conflict with Scorpion, though he had never seen her face. After returning stateside, the party goes their separate ways for the next 3 years. During that time, Mr. G covers his tracks by murdering the thugs he'd used for transportation to Camp Clancy, and framing their deaths as drive-by gang shootings. With the last people who saw him out of the picture, he goes off the grid to hunt for leads. He tracks down a few allies of Scorpion, but doesn't land any solid intel. Meanwhile, at Camp Clancy, Chauncey confronts Sarah over her erratic behavior.
Captain, I'm sorry about what happened. I shouldn't have abandoned you guys like that.
Okay. Well, what are we gonna do from here?
From where I come from, you make up for your mistakes with your actions. We come in a situation like that again, and I'll be there.
Okay. I'm letting you know now. I'm gonna give you the second chance, but the second chance comes with a price. Like you fail this time, and I can't have it. I can't risk lives because I'm banking on you to save them.
Look, we've all lost to this, and we'll probably continue to lose to this. But if I can do it,
lost yet. We've lost people, but we have not lost the war.
So, are they just people?
People are people. I've lost a lot of close people in my life. I said, I've lost the entire city that I cared for. But I'm doing what I do now to prevent more people from being lost to it.
I lost recently someone I cared about, and that drives me to the point of wanting to help.
Who did you lose?
Well, you know him. My baby brother.
What happened to Kevin?
Just because he isn't dead doesn't mean I didn't lose him.
I think you need to maybe sit down with maybe is there like some kind of BSAA council or like therapist or something? Swipe on my little board, on my war board, and just like give her the number and be like, get a hold of these people, go talk to them, get whatever's on your mind right, and then you come back to me. And when you come back, I will give you your second chance. But you have to be able to lay your life on the line for this. Like, you can't jump ship when we need you to cover our asses. I can put you into training classes. I can, there's a lot of soldiers here that they will take you under their wing and show you the ropes. Get on board with all the training camps that we have, the marches, the PT, everything, and just keep pushing forward. I'm not going to like suspend you for backing out because you were scared, but next time I have to.
And what do you suggest I tell these people?
Whatever's on your mind.
That my brother was put in a witness protection, disappeared off the face of the globe because, well, somebody was after him and killed his girlfriend?
Some of us need protected, and that's the way that they get protected. You tell them how you feel about a situation. You don't have to give them the details. You figure out the details and what they're trying to fix together on your own.
Yeah, you can train your soldiers all you want, but when they're in a firefight with something they've never even seen before, that training might get them through it, but they're going to be scarred.
I slam my hands on the desk and say, "This is war, damn it. If you can't handle it, get the hell out." Every one of these guys would lay their lives down on the line in front of me, knowing that they could fail, and they will do what I tell them to do when I want them to do it with no questions asked. I'll be the first one to show you that I will step in front and I will lead this group through the darkest of times, and I will continue to carry them through it. But they would do the same for me. You can't do that. You can't do it. It's not in your grit.
What? Like she did?
Like who did?
Your daughter.
My daughter was a prized possession to people, especially me, especially other people, because of who she was and what she was. To me, I raised her. I lost her. Nobody else lost her at that moment. I did. I'm the one who still carries that as a burden. I have other people that wanted her more dead than alive, or wanted her for studies, wanted her for things. I just wanted her to be a child, to be a girl, to grow up. I lost her, but she also was in a position where she needed answers that nobody else but herself can give. So she was on the hunt. She was in that predicament. It didn't end well.
Here's the deal. I want the son of a bitch dead just as much as you do. And if that means I have to throw my life down in front of you, I will. And she walks out of the room.
I just kicked back in my chair.
In August of 2008, their old friend Dr. Sean Lennox publishes papers critiquing the writings of Elliot Walker, the former Umbrella scientist and leader of the Manifold. Shortly thereafter, Sean goes missing. Then 1 week later, he washes up on the shores of Canada, where he's rushed to the emergency room before being transferred to John Radcliffe Hospital in his hometown of Oxford. He's now under police protection and is requesting to speak with the BSAA, namely Chauncey. The BSAA sends Chauncey overseas for this meeting, who brings with him a squad of soldiers from Foxtrot team, while the CIA sends Mr. G for the same mission. Chauncey arrives with Mr. G to meet with Sean Lennox in his secured hospital room. In conversing with him, they learn that, after publishing his papers, he was kidnapped by the Manifold and imprisoned at their clandestine headquarters, the Manifold Tower. After a week of confinement, during which he was able to speak with Walker in person, he seized an opportunity to fight past the guards and mix chemicals to hatch an escape. He blew a hole in the wall and leapt out, falling to an icy river below, at which point he lost consciousness, until washing up on the Canadian shores. In this same conversation, he shares what information he has gleaned while in prison for a week. From this, they learn that Walker has sent out his top chiefs, Scott Muller, Ronan, Scorpion, and Sphinx, in order to gather all of the viruses and use Archaea's blood to enhance them, with a long-term goal of creating some sort of global viral utopia. Knowing that the Manifold is only missing the T. Veronica virus and Ouroboros virus, the party sets themselves to the task of finding out where they might be headed to acquire such things. Following some research, they discover two leads. One, a black market dealer in South Africa, claims to be selling a sample of the Ouroboros virus. And two, a wealthy collector in Japan named Hiroki Oshiro is rumored to possess a sample of the T. Veronica virus. They also learn that Interpol suspects Mario Feliciano, the son of Don Ernesto Feliciano, to have been smuggled back into the United States. Though he doesn't seem to have many allies, they fear he may be back to reclaim his father's mansion. And so Chauncey leaves Camp Clancy on high alert as they depart on a flight to Tokyo in search of this collector. The party, accompanied by Kevin Larson, arrives at Tokyo in search of the wealthy collector Hiroki Oshiro. First, they meet Setsuko Morioka, their rather energetic BSAA contact within the Far East branch. After checking into a hotel, they arrange a meeting with Oshiro through formal channels. However, Katara is invited to another meeting, this one in the hotel's bar, with Scorpion. Approaching cautiously, Mr. G disguises himself as a hotel staffer while Katara heads to the bar. With Mr. G's help, Kevin taps into the hotel surveillance to keep watch. Chauncey and Sarah accompany Katara in secret, keeping a watchful eye from a distance and preparing to intervene. At this meeting, Scorpion outlines threats and points of leverage against Katara.
Believe it or not, I did call you here only to talk. And if I may, inform you of all the reasons that you might not want to kill me.
Why do you say that?
Well, first off, there are all these civilians nearby. Of course, as we've mentioned, don't want to put them in harm's way. But in the event that we meet in circumstances that are not as public. Well, it's been a few years since last we've seen each other, and I have thought a good deal about you since then. And it seems you were quick to reveal to me something that not everybody quite knows about you. That little infection you have, whatever the nature of it may be, I do not know, but it does not matter. You and I both know how the world views those kinds of things. You see, I have many agents in my employ. Not all of them are field agents. Some of them specialize a bit more in, how should we say, distributing information. And if anything were to happen to me, a few of those agents would be quick to make sure word of your little secret makes its way into the press.
Very smart. Very, very smart.
Of course, it does not even have to be necessarily that I die. It's on a bit of a, how should you say, dead man's switch. They don't hear from me every so often, as they would not if I were dead. Then they will know it is time to release said information. And of course, I don't need to remind you of the ramifications. You well know the law, you well know how the world views those things. It is highly illegal for non-government sponsored peoples to be experimenting with such biological hazard. You would be hunted down by the BSAA, you would be disowned and rejected by your university. All that you've sought to build up all these years would be gone overnight.
So you brought me here to speak and warned me that if something were to happen to you, my entire reputation would be for naught, and I would be hunted for what I do, or at least when I am.
Precisely.
And you think this gives you power over me?
Oh, I assume you care very much about this life that you have built up. If not for your own sake, then for the sake of your lover.
Using things like that against me to get me to sit here and think about, I don't know, my actions and more. I realize that if these things were taken away from me, should I be hunted? Should things go a completely opposite direction of where I wanted to go? You seem to think of me as somebody who might give in to these demands, or at least think about it. But if I have nothing left, what's to stop me for still coming after you even when I have nothing?
Like I said, that is the last resort. That only would be triggered as a contingency after I would die or would otherwise be put out of commission by you. And I have no doubt you would continue after my employers, but I have no care for them, despite how it may seem. I'm only loyal to the money.
Well, obviously you're getting paid for all this, but I'm assuming that should someone attempt to pay higher for you to go against them, what, you would turn?
Yeah, should
That quick?
such an offer be made. You see, I don't know what motivates you, what you fight for. It is difficult to discern from your quite scattered profile. But me, I've been in this line of work a long time. It takes its toll. The Manifold has made an offer that I could not quite refuse. An offer so exorbitant that even at this age I would be free to retire and never work another day in my life and sip martinis on the beach. That is what it is in it for me. But I doubt there are any competitive offers that can be made.
So at the end of the day, you just want to get these things done, sit back and relax.
Essentially.
Interesting.
Been in the game too long. And right now, the
So-
Manifold is the only one offering me a way out.
Ah, good to know. At least I know you're not doing it for any other reasons. You just want to leave.
Of course, nothing personal.
It's understandable.
My business has never been personal. Now you know what is at stake. I have a feeling we will be meeting each other again, and I have a feeling that they may be in more hostile circumstances. Just want to make sure you think very carefully about what you do before you take any shots in those circumstances. And I'm assuming you and I are in this town for the same reason. And should you try to stop me in my pursuit of that reason, in addition to the aforementioned reasons about what might happen if you take my life, and she pulls out of a pocket and kind of shows you kind of underhanded, you know, like keeping it hidden from other people's sight, what looks to be some sort of like triggering device, almost like you might have for like an explosive. Somewhere in this city, we have planted a quite substantial bioweapon that could be unleashed at the push of a button. Now, you don't want this to turn into an international incident, of course, so I recommend you stay out of our way. Of course, the choice is still yours. Do what you must, and I will do what I must.
Once Katara expresses her indifference, Mr. G ambushes Scorpion with massive assassination damage.
G will come over with like a platter and just be like, "Excuse me, ladies, would you like something up? It's not personal." I'm gonna empty a full round into her and slit her throat.
This isn't the mission. This isn't the mission.
Scorpion survives, dives out the window, and uses her hookshot to zip to another rooftop, while taking fire from the party as her snipers positioned on that rooftop return fire. Bullets are exchanged through the windows as she disappears behind the parapet of the opposing roof. Chauncey fires blind, putting 2 critical hit rounds through the wall with his magnum.
Did I just end this lady with a blind fire? I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's it. Fire again.
Yeah, you don't see anything, but
Oh my God!
what is this?
This is meant to be.
But having no sight of her, Scorpion's fate remains unknown. Chauncey stays behind at the hotel to establish communications with HQ and handle the incoming police with his BSAA authority. The rest of the party hits the streets, finding access to the opposite building and making their way to the roof. There they find Scorpion's lifeless body. Chauncey's blind shots had evidently killed her. However, the other snipers are nowhere to be seen. Her agents appear to have gotten to her body first, taking her hookshot and using her triggering device to unleash a devastating BOW on the city. Mr. G, Katara, Sarah, and Kevin return to the streets, following the distant chaos and commotion to that BOW, which turns out to be the U3, a large slithering plaga creature of mismatched biology. After seeing it cut down several cops, the party battles it with their combined firepower. Though sustaining some damage, they ultimately defeat it. Running late for their appointment with the collector Oshiro, they hitch a ride with their local BSAA contact Setsuko and drive to the Oshiro estate at the top of a hill. Along the ride, they have a rather somber and reflective conversation.
Katara, Scorpion's dead now. You alright?
If I have to lose everything to take them out, then I'm willing to. But the moment they get anywhere near my family or near it'll get very personal. While I'm huge into the whole idea of viral research, and there's something that I'm trying to prove, the idea that these viruses, they were used for the wrong. When I was over at Nest, my whole thing was set for improving human conditions. And this isn't to force it upon others. People could get this if they wanted. My idea is the whole thing for sickness, disease, longevity, not necessarily immortality, but longevity to help our race.
Well, I told you about my sister, right? There's something that she told me once. The closet is suffocating. Stepping out of the closet's the most freeing thing you can do. So maybe this is a good thing for you. Maybe if people can see you for who you really are, they might be a little bit more forthcoming to your cause. Just saying, this might not be a bad thing for you then, if that's your goal.
It is. As long as I can help people, that's why I joined Umbrella. It was to help, and then, well, everything happened. And then I saw them for what they were, and decided I'm gonna take my own spin with things, even if it gets this risky.
I hear you there. You're risking everything. I guess in some ways I'm doing the same. Did you know that before she died, Archaea was planning to propose to me?
No.
Yep.
I found in a drawer a box with 2 rings in it and a note. This is the risk we take.
I will do everything in my power, even if it kills me, to make sure my family and my loved one are safe.
Well, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to do everything in my power, but I'm not if it kills me. This is a job.
I understand that.
Eventually, Walker will probably have my family too, so just give it some time.
I cannot wait to take out the rest of his people. And then him. He is the one that stated that he had all this power, and I want to be the one to take his life. So he understands that all that power that he got is for naught. Think about the good days with Emil before.
I've had no good days with that man. That guy was a pain in the ass.
He had, hey, that house of his had some really good collector's editions for music. Depeche Mode was there, and that's gone. He was good to talk to when it came to, like, I guess older things, and was smart, so it helped. But yeah, no, he can die.
Yeah, I imagine that must have been pretty close for you two, since you're probably the smartest ones in the room at any given time.
If it wasn't for Emil, I wouldn't have unlocked the potential of the virus in a positive light.
Well, that's steps in the right direction then. To make sure that you do continue to use it in the way that you intend, and you don't end up becoming like Emil. Because remember, he thought he was righteous.
Satsuko rolls down her window, and there's like this sort of telecom panel by the driver's side.
I want a change of clothes to that tux or the formal wear that I got. He's not really too modest or anything, so he'll just start changing where he is. This you can actually see, since when he takes his shirt off, just his arms are all
Covered?
make-upped. So like at some point, like halfway up his arm, you can see where the makeup stops and it starts fading back into like full tattoos, just completely everywhere all over his body. On his chest, he has this giant pentagram with a bunch of fairly racist tattoos on. He's got like a swastika right in the center of it with like a lightning bolts on his pecs. These are like prison tats.
Did you take some time?
No, but I do know a guy who's really good at prison tats. It's part of the job. I got to do some time on the streets, but I have to look the part. So wherever I go, I mean, you can see right here, this is a tat for it. He just starts like naming gangs that he's affiliated with on the East Coast, on the West Coast. You got the Irish Mob, you have the Aryan Brotherhood. Over here in the back, we have, and then he just starts like naming off a bunch of really white, aggressive gangs that he's associated with. And he's like, yeah, I used to kill for those guys professionally before I joined the CIA.
Huh. Well,
Fun fact.
interesting.
Seeing as we're being a little honest right now.
The party is led in through the gates of Oshiro Manor, where a T. Veronica sample is rumored to be. Entering the mansion as per their arrangement, they meet with Hiroki Oshiro and tour his collection, which boasts some exotic and rare historic objects, including the fabled Muramasa rifle. Mr. G takes particular interest in the apparent warfare theme that connects many of the displays. There are such objects as an 18th century English flintlock pistol, an authentic samurai armor from the Sengoku period, a Rembrandt portrait of an aristocratic soldier, and many other fascinating pieces. However, when inquiring into the virus, Oshiro denies having any possession of it. Soon after, his security chief, John Harding of the mercenary group Red Oracle Solutions, whispers something to him, and the guards proceed to escort the party off the grounds. Before they get all the way out, the guards are called down to the basement, from which they soon hear gunfire. Rushing downstairs and heading past the disabled security traps, the party comes to a now open vault, which houses a comatose girl lying in bed. This is Hisako Oshiro, Hiroki's daughter. 2 members of Scorpion's crew are inside the room, attempting to steal the T. Veronica virus from her veins. Oshiro's security besieges the room, but can't take action while Hisako is hostage. But, subtly throwing a flash grenade inside, the party stuns the operatives and proceeds to enter and kill one of the 2. They keep the other alive for interrogation, and Mr. G uses him to make a radio call luring the snipers inside, who they had previously noticed keeping watch out in the nearby trees. When the 2 snipers arrive, they are cautious and suspicious, but ultimately, Mr. G approaches them with an offer they cannot refuse.
I have a job offer for you. I killed your boss, and now I'm offering you a job. 19.
Yeah, there's a brief silence. The other voice comes in. He's just like, "Is this the real deal?" He's just like,
I'm just gonna walk out with my handgun like on one end and like a knife on the other end. I'm just gonna like walk out directly between them.
They're just like, "Whoops," and they train their rifles on you and start maneuvering away from the wall.
Nah, don't do anything.
Who are you?
Well, who I am is less important than how much I pay.
Well, what do we call you at least?
You can call me G.
All right, G. So it seems you have us at a bit of a pickle here. I don't like this.
You don't have to like it, but it pays. That's the nature of work.
All right, I'm listening.
Your boss is dead. I killed her. There is now a very lucrative opening in the black market for people of your talents, and I am looking to purchase.
All right, I see how it is. So you got Jamie, huh?
Yep, and he still got all his toes.
How's Olsen?
He paid for his incompetence.
And like they do both kind of exchange a look, kind of nod to each other, and he's like, "Let's hear what you have to say."
The remaining Scorpion crew agrees to discuss further terms with Mr. G and leaves the premise. The party is then rewarded by Hiroki Oshiro with a great sum of money and the legendary Muramasa rifle from his collection, which Mr. G gladly takes. Returning stateside, they spend a few days preparing to depart for South Africa, where the Ouroboros virus is rumored to be. Meanwhile, Katara funds some research projects at her university, and Sarah takes time getting to know various members of the party, while Mr. G travels abroad, where he adds a scorpion tattoo to his neck while hanging around Germany, a symbolic gesture intended to send ripples through the criminal underground. Chauncey decides to stay behind in order to keep watch over Camp Clancy in case Mario Feliciano assails it, but sends the rest of the party to handle the mission in Johannesburg. The party arrives in Johannesburg to intercept the Ouroboros virus from the local black market. They first meet with their local BSAA guide, Agent Okoro Idowu, who informs them that the best place to look is in a slum on the city's outskirts called Aretha's Hovel, which is home to innumerable criminal activities. He also informs them that there is rumored to be some sort of outbreak in one corner of Aretha's Hovel, which has since been quarantined. At the clinic of the University of Johannesburg, they meet with the nurse in residence Rachel Bowman, who explains that one of her more idealistic students was in the area treating the disease just before it was quarantined, and she has not been seen or heard from since. With this in mind, the party makes their way to Aretha's Hovel, where Mr. G uncovers his tattoos to blend in with the shady locals, and guides the party toward the busier areas to begin their search. They end up in a local fight club, where a few amateur combatants are going at it in a dirt pit. They place some bets and make some money. However, Sarah then volunteers to fight the winner. Stepping into the arena, Sarah trades blows with the fighter and, after taking quite a few hits, manages to summon enough grit to knock him out. Next, Katara, seeking to get Sarah back in line, volunteers to fight the new winner, while Mr. G acts as her manager to the ringleader Mavuto. In a stunning display of martial arts speed and skill, Katara puts Sarah down without taking a single hit. Mavuto then puts Katara up against the reigning champion, Tommy the Destroyer Edgar. The fight is tough and evenly matched, but after knees and kicks and elbows fly for several rounds on end, eventually Katara emerges victorious. After this, Mr. G meets Mavuto in the back room, where he receives the payout for defeating the champion, and is given some new leads on where to begin networking. Through Mavuto's leads, the party arranges a backroom meeting with Edwin Van Buren, the leader behind a local black market group called Section 3, who are in possession of a stolen prototype of the Ouroboros virus. After learning that their prices are too steep to pay, Mr. G pretends to seek a deal, but after they leave, Mr. G simply follows them to their hideout at a warehouse in the inner city. Meanwhile, Katara, Sarah, and Kevin make some purchases from a local arms dealer named Ibrahim, who also offers a reward for stealing the famed shotgun known as the Hydra from Section 3's storage. After these deals, the party regroups outside the warehouse. In setting up, they notice a strike team getting ready to breach the building, led by Scott and Ronan, who stand nearby, as well as a sniper on the opposing rooftop. The sniper seems to spot Mr. G, at which point Mr. G takes a shot at them as the strike team makes their move. In the ensuing fight, Scott and Ronan raid the building with their soldiers, who begin cleaning house, killing all the Section 3 guards inside. Van Buren opens one shipping container, unleashing a writhing mass of tentacles as an Ouroboros test subject emerges. With the party's intervention, the Manifold soldiers all eventually fall, but Scott and Ronan secure a briefcase from one shipping container and escape. Mr. G shoots the case on their way out, damaging the exterior and flinging out the metal vial within. However, Scott is still able to pick the sample back up and retreats. But much to the party's surprise, the sniper on the opposing roof takes a shot at Scott as he leaves the building.
And as this is going on,
Whoa, I don't know what. Oh,
that's a natural 20. A sniper shot goes off. Scott just takes a shot to the shoulder and just after you shoot the thing out of his hand, is just like, what was that? We got snipers on the rooftops. And
Wait a minute.
He's going to.
What the hell?
But during the battle, Sarah is attacked and infected by the Ouroboros specimen. Without a green herb to help her recover, she lies in the back alley as Kevin prepares to make the ultimate decision. Agent Okoro pulls up to the curb with a green herb in the back. Kevin barely escorts his sister Sarah out, applying the green herb and helping her to survive this close brush with death. Katara then gives chase with her incredible speed on foot, while Mr. G uses Scorpion's hookshot to swing from roof to roof. Using her grenade launcher, Katara blows up the Manifold's escape vehicle, and after some more chasing they corner Scott and Ronan in an abandoned building. Meanwhile, the Ouroboros creature unleashed in the warehouse still roams the streets. Instead of heading into the abandoned building himself, Mr. G lures the Ouroboros creature onto the roof, then gets it to smash into a fragile portion and fall inside. They throw a flash grenade to light up the dark interior and see Scott hiding in one of the corners. As the Ouroboros closes in on him, Ronan rushes out and ambushes it with a flurry of attacks from its katana and tail. Scott makes a run for the streets, with Ronan and the Ouroboros and the rest of the party following behind. Okoro rams his SUV into Scott, who then attempts to hijack it. Ronan also comes to his aid and kills Okoro by impaling him with its tail. However, Sarah manages to impair Scott's reasoning by drugging him, and then convinces him to hand over the virus as they speed away down the street in the SUV. Ronan rides the vehicle and attacks Sarah, but she jumps out as the Ouroboros closes in and consumes Ronan in its mass of tentacles. With Sarah clear, Katara lays down some artillery on the SUV, destroying it and seriously injuring Scott. But with his ally dead, and the situation looking helpless, he uses his supernatural speed to escape and hijack a car at a distant intersection. Katara and Mr. G give chase. However, Sarah remains behind and finds herself unable to escape the Ouroboros monstrosity. Rather than die by its hand, she infects herself with the Ouroboros virus she'd taken from Scott.
Yeah, so you take
She
this.
sees this as the end, and she just stabs it in her arm.
So, in the face of certain doom, looking up at this creature as it's about to envelop you, you take this vial, stick out the needle on one end, and just stick it into your arm. You see your veins going dark around that area, and you just feel the life essence begin to drain from you as just various tentacles beneath your skin begin to writhe about, and you can see them and feel them, and it is a very invasive, terrifying feeling. Is there any last thing you want Sarah to say?
She's just going to kind of whisper over the Bluetooth, mission failed. But the virus is gone, and that's going to be her last words.
Wouldn't that be a mission success then?
Well,
In any event,
it doesn't get into the wrong hands.
you hear Sarah say that over the airwaves.
Well, you can rest easy then. Mission accomplished.
Meanwhile, Kevin you can hear him screaming in sorrow.
Mr.
Yeah.
G turns off his comms.
You hear your brother's cries in the distance as your vision closes over and these tentacles envelop you. None of you are around to see this. Sarah isn't quite aware enough to perceive it either. Somewhere in the distant blocks behind you guys, she is just writhing and contorting and transforming into a massive creature, much like the one in front of her. And with the last thought that she had in her head, that creature begins to act. And these two clash in the middle of that street.
And that was the last anyone saw of Sarah Black. Mr. G and Katara give chase to Scott Muller on foot. Scott hijacks the civilian's car and speeds onto a highway, but Mr. G breaks into another car and uses his spy gadgets to hotwire it and continue the chase. Katara takes the wheel as Mr. G breaks the window of the passenger seat and leans out with his rifle. Meanwhile, Kevin, still back at the site of the previous battle, witnesses the aftermath of his sister's martyrdom. There he finds Ronan's katana sheathed on the ground and hears sirens closing in from the distance. Before the police arrive, he retrieves Ronan's katana and flees the area on foot. But back with the chase, the sniper from the opposing rooftop also joins the fray, keeping pace on the back of a motorcycle. Getting a better look at this mysterious figure, Katara and Mr. G see what appears to be a woman, wearing a dark cloak with a bird-like mask over her face. The chase grows intense. Scott drives recklessly through the intersections, forcing Katara to weave through traffic, crashing with a few cars along the way. As they get onto the highway, Scott shoots at civilian vehicles, causing them to swerve into the path as new obstacles. Mr. G takes shot after shot at Scott's vehicle. The Bird Lady does likewise with her Scorpion SMG, and ultimately lands the final shot that overturns Scott's car, sending it crashing and tumbling across the pavement. Katara brings their car to a stop nearby, as Mr. G looses the seatbelt tying him down and marches out on foot.
Out of it, again, with all that steam rising out of the inside, you see a hand, and then another, and then crawling out and then falling out onto the black top and leaning against the car is just Scott Muller, holding some of his wounds, and you see he's battered and bloody. He's riddled with bullet holes, especially from the fights that came before, and he's just looking up at you with a sort of accepting look in his eye, and he's just like, well, I suppose this was only a matter of time. All my friends are dead. Carmine, Lopez, Ronan. Yeah, it's an occupational hazard.
Can't afford to have friends in this occupation, my friend.
I hear you there. But you know, there's no other business I'd rather give my life to. I was born to fight. It's all I ever known. I suspect you might know something about that.
I guess we're a bit of a kindred spirit. But I have an edge on you that maybe no one else does.
And what's that?
Well, if you think about it this way, and I'm just going to fully light him up. With a full burst handgun, it's just, well, if you think about it this way.
Afterwards, the Bird Lady approaches and inquires about the virus. But after learning that it was out of their hands, she threw down a smoke grenade and disappeared into the dark of night. However, the chaotic and destructive chase led the police right to the party, and after being detained for a few hours, they are let out with the help of some of their friends in high places, namely Mr. H of the CIA's Alphabet Soup outfit. Soon after, the party hears news of an outbreak in a suburban neighborhood in Des Moines, Iowa. Katara receives a text from Nuria, explaining that it is the same neighborhood in which Katara's parents reside. Camp Clancy is the closest BSAA base, so Chauncey is put in charge of the response. He orders Foxtrot 1 and 2 to the site, and requests that the party return stateside as soon as possible to join him. He also orders Kevin back to Camp Clancy to help keep guard with Foxtrot 3, and to fix their apparent toilet problems. The rest of the party takes a flight to Des Moines, where they meet Chauncey and Nuria at the military encampment outside the suburb of Ankeny Road, which is engulfed in some sort of thick fog. They are briefed on the details of the situation by both Chauncey and the local police lieutenant. They learn that a SWAT team went in previously, but only one survivor came out. In interviewing the survivor, they managed to glean many details of his traumatic experience inside.
I don't know if I can even put it into words. All my guys, all my friends are all dead. The people in there, they're, not right. Not right anymore.
What did they look like? Did they look animalistic?
No, they looked like something far worse. I mean, we only saw one person the whole time we were in there, and he just looked normal. He just looked like some guy, some, I don't know, stuck-up dad that probably lived in that neighborhood, but we tried to help him, but he attacked us, and he had some sort of hook, and just our bullets just didn't seem to faze him when we tried to defend ourselves. A couple of us got to a hiding place, but it didn't do us any good. I was seeing things that I couldn't explain. People that I haven't seen since childhood, just memories.
Mr. G's just in the back in his shady corner, and it's just gonna be like, no, what you experienced was ghosts.
You just look sort of like, when did he get here?
That he does that.
No, I know what he's seeing. I've seen that before.
You said
Huh?
ghosts?
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever see it again.
When did you last run into this?
I was in Bosnia. Lost my entire Marine squad. Like you said, people we've never seen before, just popping in and out of the mist. We couldn't run from it. It just came out of nowhere. But if we need to stop this from happening, you need to tell us everything you know, so that people like us, so that we don't happen anymore. And I'm stepping out of the shadows, fully tatted up and scar coming up and down like my throat. You can help us end this. If you came out and survived, then you know more than I did. I just ran.
Go ahead and make a deception check. And he looks at you, and he looks in your eyes, and he knows that you know. And he just sort of nods, and he's just like, you've seen it before too.
Haunts my waking memories.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, you read all this crazy stuff all over the news about these bioweapons, and this isn't any bioweapons I ever seen before. It was something else. Again, it just came and went. And whenever he sank his hook into my guys, my men, they just seemed to drift ever farther from reality. Like they were becoming more like him. And I could have swore at one point I saw after he killed one of my men, how their body just drifted off too. We're all seeing something that we couldn't explain, all sorts of things. Or one moment I'm in this suburb, the next time, I'm back home and I'm like, this is impossible. Then I realize it's not home, it's just the same suburb, and I'm just going in circles trying to find a way out. Oh no, and he kind of rubs his head, and he's just like, no, there might have been... No. All the memories get mixed together. I think there was one more. There was one more man. We couldn't see too far in the fog, and I just see one man just standing in the middle of the road. And he looked at me for a moment, and I looked at him. Just this guy standing upright. Just smoke billowing off of him. Just dressed all up nice in a suit. He said something to me. I couldn't tell you what it was. I can't memories are all blend together. I can't remember, but I remember he sounded Italian. You know, like one of those cliche mob guys you see on TV.
Oh.
And then he just, I don't know, he disappeared. I can't be sure of that. I can't trust anything that I was seeing. I don't know. I don't know what was real.
Though Lieutenant Connolly is hesitant to let what seems like civilian advisors into the neighborhood, he ultimately lets the party by due to Chauncey's vouching. Mr. G gives Mr. Fox a progress report. As part of this brief call, Mr. Fox warns that one of his fellow Alphabet Soup agents, Mr. Yu, has gone undercover in the Manifold, and that he should take caution in encountering new Manifold operatives. Before entering the neighborhood, Chauncey gives the Genesis scanning device to Nuria to enhance her visibility. Chauncey remains behind to command from the camp, as Katara, Mr. G, and Nuria head into the fog. As they walk the silent, empty streets, they encounter some strange happenings, such as the dog barking at nothing before running off. In one house, they hear a sound, and upon investigation, find BSAA soldier Allie Gold banging her head against the wall and rambling nonsensically about being in a desert. They also find Lisa's new player character, a mercenary by the name of Emmanuel, who seems to be investigating the area as well. Mr. G manages to lure Allie outside with the promise of satiating her apparent hunger with apple pie, and, upon returning to her senses, he sends her back to the BSAA camp. They later find that Emmanuel is searching for Mario Feliciano, the person responsible for this outbreak. The party allows Emmanuel to tag along as they continue into the neighborhood. All the while, some of them experience horrifying hallucinations. At another house, they also see someone watching from the windows, and upon investigation are attacked by 3 dolls wielding knives. They quickly dispatch these dolls and search the house. Within the bathroom, Katara encounters her mother, who accuses her of being responsible for this incident. But this too proves to be a delusion. Meanwhile, Nuria stumbles upon a grim painting of a man holding a hook. The man then floats out of the painting and attacks her. Upon hearing her scream, the party rushes to Nuria's aid and battles the ghostly figure. Katara uses her flashlight to stun the creature, which soon dissolves into a cloud of mist and attempts to escape. Though it would have been invisible in the fog outside, Nuria uses the Genesis to locate the creature, allowing Katara to finish it off by burning its remaining form with her flashlight. After defeating this ghost, the party loses track of their new mercenary ally and makes their way to the household of Katara's parents. As they approach the front doors, Katara hears something.
But the front door seems to be slightly ajar, and as you approach sort of the lawn area, the door just like creaks open a little bit. Katara, you hear for a brief instance, very close to your ear, just, "Step inside."
Jeez.
Did you hear that?
Are you seeing anything in there?
Listen, something just told me to step inside.
Inside, they hear heavy footsteps moving about the second floor. On the first floor, they find a reinforced door, which is locked and gated. In a fake doghouse in the backyard, they find a crank to open the gate, but they still require another piece to unlock it. Heading upstairs, they quickly find the source of the heavy footsteps, as a pair of tyrants in sharp, dapper suits, one blue and one purple, step out of 2 of the rooms and converge on them. They engage these tyrants, trading blows and taking shots as they retreat downstairs. In the battle that follows, Chauncey and Pistol Grip Pete come crashing through the living room in the Black Betty.
60 foot will put me roughly into the laundry room, right?
Your trunk is in the laundry room right now. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just
I will say,
With the soldiers joining the fray, they're soon able to knock the tyrants unconscious, allowing them to traverse the area freely. On the second floor, they find some supplies, a memoir manuscript, and a safe containing the last will and testament of Katara's parents, which Katara takes the opportunity to read over and find some curious contents. Namely, that much of their inheritance is left to one Angelina Yang, a person Katara has never heard of, despite the fact that they seem to have great affection for her. They also find a photograph of a young Katara with her parents, and in removing the back of the frame, discover that it could slot perfectly into the reinforced door below. Bringing it downstairs, they set the photo frame in the door and unlock it. However, as it unseals, they hear a voice.
At this point, all of you would hear a voice much like what Katara heard at the front door. Thank you.
The surrounding mist then begins pouring through the seams, as they appear to have given something else access to the basement. Rushing down to the bunker, the party hears a commotion coming from a chamber down the hall. Heading to investigate, they find a spectral figure attacking Katara's father, David. Upon intervening, they are thrust into a dreamlike sequence by the perpetrator.
All this desperation I sense. Can't we just talk for a moment?
What do you want to talk about?
Well, the way I see things, there's no joy in revenge when the victim is so lost. Don't you want to know what's going on? Don't you want to know what all of this is?
You know what? Enlighten me.
Your hair is kind of going like straight down and you're suspended upside down, immediately apparating in front of your face, just like right side up, and this form kind of apparates of like this presentable, clean-shaven gentleman in a dark suit with a kind of a gold chain around his neck. His skin is pale white with black veins kind of crawling up him, and there's just dark mist constantly emanating from his person. And again, all of you can see one another, and all of you see this apparition as well. Reality is a fickle thing, isn't it? Even in life, I thought things changed fast, but now reality is what I say it is. And he just reaches out with his index finger and just pokes Katara right in the forehead. And as this happens, there's just like a sudden flash. All of your perceptions of what's going on right now just suddenly shift. You all begin to feel this certain weightlessness. And now all of a sudden you cannot see yourselves, but you only see Katara and this figure traveling, sort of flying through this dark void, through empty space. And the rest of you are just sort of basically in spectator mode as they are brought along. And Katara, you feel like you're flying at like 100 miles per hour until suddenly you impact against a chair. And you are now sitting in a chair in the middle of a street. You look around and this street is a little bit familiar. This is Raccoon City. This is Raccoon City in the midst of the incident, the outbreak. This figure, again, this guy in this suit, is still, he's just sort of has his hand behind his back, and he's just kind of walking around you as you're seated in this chair. I wasn't actually in Raccoon City, but I'd imagine it looks something like this from the news reports I'd seen. I understand you were here. Perhaps you could fill in some of the details. But this is my understanding of the story of this power I wield. And he just sort of snaps, and you see just like this vehicle appear in front of him. I don't know what sort of vehicle you were driving around in at the time, but I hear tell that there was a certain virus inside of it that you had workshopped off the grid in some secret laboratory. Then one day, and you see this figure in a dark tactical gear just like saunter up to this car, look around, and then start like breaking into it. Umbrella managed to get a hold of it. And then all of a sudden, your vision shifts and you're spinning in this chair. You come to a sudden halt, and now you're in a laboratory space surrounded by all sorts of scientists. Umbrella did a lot to refine it over the years. They improved it all sorts of ways. Not stuff I'm exactly privy to, but it'd make a lot more sense to a learned mind. And he snaps his fingers again, and now you're all of a sudden at some sort of shady looking back alley deal. Yeah, there's a man in like a navy blue suit that you recognize. Looks just like Walker. Basically in the midst of a scene that's just like some sort of negotiation, it looks like. Well, and then one day, the Manifold came along and bought what remains of that virus off of the black market. By that, it had earned quite a nickname for its capabilities. They called it the Spectre virus. Fast forward from that, and you just sort of like shoot forward again, as if literally fast forwarding through a tape. And then when you come to another stop, you are in a dark room, and you see this figure in the suit, accompanied behind him by two well-dressed tyrant bodyguards sitting across from Walker. That Spectre virus was further worked on and refined by Walker. Some may even say perfected, although from what I understand, it's quite the enigma even to scientists. They believe there's a lot of potential in this. It just needs to be discovered. But didn't stop them from putting it up for sale. You see, after my father died, I knew there was quite a lot to make up. The Feliciano name isn't just one that I can allow to descend into obscurity. There's an honor that comes with our trade, and for that, I needed to avenge his name. But it seems Walker was fond of my desires. He was willing to let the Spectre virus off of his hand for a discount in my case, so long as I used it against you.
I don't even think I need to ask what for, but you know what? Tell me.
Well, isn't it obvious? I was able to find your parents pretty easily, and I knew that, well, if I went after them, you and your friends were sure to follow. I don't know who all was involved in the taking of the Feliciano Manor, but I'll go ahead and say all of you were and kill you all the same.
I'm curious, what?
Chauncey's grinning from cheek to cheek, just like, let's go. Take me out of spectator mode. Let's find out how strong you really are. Like, is my vocals heard though? Like, if I say
are you
things,
trying to say
will
things?
they be heard? Actually, I want to mock him because that's Chauncey's manner.
Okay,
You
so
know,
basically
like,
what you were saying earlier, just like...
I took that house by myself. I killed your dad. So I'm gonna be in his spectator mode. Once I realize I'm an aberration, like floating around, I'm going to start circling around and be like, oh, but I did that. Oh yeah, remember that was my Hummer that was robbed. Yep.
Just me. Look, that's
Just
me
like
right there.
floating around. All these people are only here because of me. If you want to really hurt somebody, you gotta hurt me. Like I'm trying to egg him on.
So with that wisdom check, you start speaking, and at first you notice is like, nothing's coming out. You know, there's like some sort of general mute on you. But through sheer force of will, you push through it and push through the oppressive force of this guy's reality-bending will, and you, Katara and him both just hear Chauncey's voice just muffled at first, and then gradually gets a little bit more clear, and then becomes like kind of a distant sort of voice, ghost-like whispers coming in and out, except the content is not creepy at all.
When it starts coming out, be like, see, even your fake reality can't stop me. And like, I just want to keep taunting him. Like, I'm gonna keep coming and keep going until you give in to my will.
With this help, Katara soon wills her way through his reality-altering powers and strikes a blow against him, after which he transforms into a nightmarish monstrosity as the walls around them explode to reveal an infinite expanse of outer space, with a massive Lovecraftian tentacle swaying in the distance, obscuring a nearby star. They battle this specter creature, unloading bullets and explosives and chemical weapons upon it. In turn, Mario's monstrous form slices at them with its scythe-like claws, while teleporting around the battlefield and using its illusory powers in an attempt to suppress them. This epic battle in the basement obliterates the Oswald household, as Mario's specter form digs his way out to the surface. There, they fight hard against him, until at last Mr. G takes the killing shot.
How do you want to do this?
Ah! Okay, so like I'm like running through this hallway. I have my rifle out. Quick check my target. I'm just like, Chauncey, look out! And just fire right over his shoulder. But I'm gonna hit him in the weak spot.
You watch as you see parts of it flailing in and out of view from below ground. Aim down your scope and just wait for the most opportune moment. Then as soon as you see that gnarly looking maw, send a round straight through, and you see the smoke dissipating out of it go and split open. You see what looks to be a humanoid figure just fly backwards like he's shooting his head back out of the smoke before flying backwards, falling through the air. Barely see him cresting towards the edge of the ground where it transitions to underground. He lands there and just sort of plummets and explodes into a puff of smoke. You see a bunch of dust and essentially like ash-like material falling like sand over the edge.
The T-103 Tyrant bodyguards are by this point revitalized, but with their master dead, they seem to enter a dormant state. In this state, Mr. G is able to lead them out of the suburb and into a smuggling truck which he arranges with his criminal contacts in order to capture them for later study at Camp Clancy. However, as the party departs, Chauncey learns that much of his unit had been killed during the operation, including all of Foxtrot 2, and one of his close comrades, Newton. Chauncey has the neighborhood wiped off the map with airstrikes, partly to kill the remaining BOWs and partly to cover their tracks in capturing these tyrants. Katara then moves her parents in to Camp Clancy and helps them to get acclimated. In the days that follow, they see news reports about Johannesburg, where the quarantine zone in Retha's hovel, which they never addressed, had ended up getting taken care of by Greenhouse Solutions. The team was led by Greenhouse Solutions' Chief of Security, who apparently is the party's old ally Justin Scalvo. Greenhouse Solutions is praised for their heroic humanitarian effort, as they treat infected patients in the aftermath. Then, 2 days after the events on Ankeny Road, word of Katara's infection is leaked to the American press and tipped to the police, as Scorpion's threat to expose Katara in the event of her own death seems to have followed through. The BSAA is sent to raid Katara's apartments, but with Chauncey at the helm, he gives her plenty of warning and ensures that no hard evidence is secured. However, the story gets picked up in national and international news coverage. Secretary of State and former Army Colonel Jonah Levingham passionately denounces Katara as public opposition mounts against her and Simpson University. This news is accompanied by a slew of leaks the world over on powerful individuals and politicians, as everyone Scorpion had dirt on seems to have been exposed all at once. But with no hard evidence found, Katara maintains a public denial of such accusations. And that concludes the story of The Gathering. But the story doesn't end there.
In the aftermath of your latest excursions, in a barren and ice-covered landscape, there stands an immense dark tower that rises towards the sky. And within that tower are many dozens of floors, one of which contains a dark room lit only by a holographic monitor. In that room stands a man, sort of tall with fair skin, short, frazzled black hair, and seemingly glowing blue eyes. He's very kind of tall and slender and in a navy blue suit. I guess if you were to see him, you would be recognized as Walker. And an image pops up on his holographic monitor of a young man, blue and white hair, and a stylish black coat. Sphinx. And he just says, "I've confirmed Scott and Ronan are also down. He'll failed to get the Ouroboros virus." Walker just says, "Unfortunate, but predictable." He just presses a button on the interface and the holographic image fades. Then Walker turns around and starts for the doors, which slide open as he approaches. And he just says to himself, It is as it has always been. I have to do everything myself. He walks out onto a catwalk and places his hands along the guardrails and surveys his domain. Below him is a massive chamber with innumerable industrial assembly lines in constant motion. What little of the process isn't automated is slaved at by parasite-infested hosts. And one such host approaches him with a tablet and says, "Everything is proceeding on schedule, sir. Your vision may yet be realized before the holidays." He just responds, "Patience. I've waited many years for this opportunity. I will not welcome mistakes by failing to wait another year more. Plan is ready when I say it's ready." "Very well, sir. And what of our other facilities? I understand Project Ares is nearing completion." "I'm sure our old friend is hungry. He'll hunt again soon. And on that day, all else will be set in motion. But until then, we sharpen our weapons for war." "Have we secured the items I sent for?" And the individual says, Yes, sir." And he holds up a photograph on his tablet. "Fresh off the black market." And Walker responds, "Excellent," before kind of looking off into the distance for a moment, and then turning back and saying, "I've just sent Sphinx my criteria. He shall find me a suitable vessel. And when he does, and all the other pieces are in place, only then shall the end begin." And takes one last look at the factory before turning back for that room. And just sort of mutters to himself, "Hello, world."
Congratulations on making it through the recaps. The next story arc is called the Manifold, which is the 6th and final story arc of the campaign. Since these videos are only meant to catch you up, I'm afraid this will be the last Resident recap. But to continue the story, feel free to start watching from episode 66 onward. I hope you enjoyed the final arc, and with it, the conclusion of Resident Roleplay.